Do you have a tough conversation you've been avoiding? Maybe it's with a colleague, employee, or even your boss. And every day you delay, it gets more uncomfortable. This episode is your playbook for handling those moments with courage, clarity, and impact. Welcome to the Leadership Career Accelerator, where we help aspiring leaders like you build executive presence, influence with impact, and get recognized and promoted. I am longtime CEO Barry Moline. My mission is to help you grow as a leader, elevate your career, and improve your life. If you enjoy learning leadership tools, please hit subscribe. In return, my promise is to keep bringing you ideas that make you a better leader. Today, we're talking about those dreaded difficult conversations. Difficult conversations aren't hard because the truth is unclear. They're hard because we delay them until consequences show up. In this powerful episode, I'll share my real life case study. I call it the Bill story. And I'll give you an easy to use framework that walks you through exactly how to lead tough conversations without losing trust, damaging culture, or freezing up in the moment. You'll walk away with a 4-part framework that transforms tough conversations into constructive turning points. You'll see a clear path to restore trust, reset expectations, and move forward, even after uncomfortable feedback. And you'll get tools to stay calm, connected, and clear, no matter how awkward the topic. If there's a conversation you've been avoiding, now's the time to step up. Use this 4-part framework, protect the culture, and lead with both strength and respect. Let's get into it and talk about difficult conversations and how to make them straightforward and, dare I say, easy. You know those conversations, the ones you keep postponing because you're busy or tired or you don't want to deal with the stress or emotions. And here's what I've learned. Difficult conversations aren't difficult because the truth is unclear. They're difficult because we wait too long for the truth to come now with consequences. So today, I'm going to give you a simple 4-phase framework that keeps tough conversations from turning into disasters. And I'm going to give you a real case study throughout the episode about an employee I had named Bill, because this stuff is easy to describe in theory, but it's a little messier in real life. I'll show you how to make it work. But first, a quick story, because this is where I learned the value of direct feedback. I've been playing hockey my whole life, and I'm also a hockey referee. In fact, years ago, I was a professional hockey referee. Early in my first season, I was a little lazy. I wasn't incompetent. I just wasn't putting forth all the effort that was required. And in hockey, a referee has to skate into position to make the call. When the puck crosses the blue line out of the attacking zone, that's the cue. The play is switching directions. And I would just coast. After a particular game, a senior referee came up to me and said, "Barry, when the puck leaves the attacking zone, you were slow to follow the play. That means you were out of position to make the next call. That affects your accuracy, and the players get a bad game officiated by you." Then he gave me the cue. He said, "When the puck leaves the attacking zone and crosses the blue line, that's your cue to get your ass out of the zone." And then he said the line that mattered most. "I want you to be a better referee. So skate harder." I was shocked, but I was grateful because it was direct, it was clear, and it was future focused. And that's what a great difficult conversation does. It corrects the present without destroying the future. I'm still a hockey referee today, and every time the puck leaves the attacking zone, I think, get your ass out of the zone, Barry, and I skate harder. Now let's take this out of the locker room and into the workplace. Here's that case study about an employee named Bill I was talking about. I had an employee whose name was Bill, and he would lead committee meetings. And out of nowhere one day, he said something inappropriate. He said, "That sounds like what the Nazis did in Germany." Yikes. And here's a key detail: I wasn't in the meeting. People later reported to me that Bill made this comment and then just kept going. Nobody said anything in the moment because they were shocked and didn't feel like they had any authority to correct him in real time. After the meeting, one of my staff members came to me and said, "Bill said something really inappropriate in today's committee meeting. Can you talk to him so it doesn't happen again?" That's the moment every leader knows. You see the problem, or you're told about the problem. You know you should address it, but you're busy. You're human. So you're kind of tempted to just wait, see if it happens again. But if you wait, the issue grows, it spreads, and it starts to quietly change the culture of your team or your organization. So here's the framework I used to address it. There are 4 phases. The 4 phases are: 1, clarity. That's where you talk about facts and your purpose and expectations. The second phase is control. That's where you get permission to talk. You talk about choices and you ask interrogative questions. The third phase is respect. And that's one where you make sure your tone is professional and you're empathetic and you acknowledge the other person. And the fourth phase, that's the future orientation. That's where you talk about options going forward, the pathways, how are we going to get there, and most important, the next steps. So now I'm going to walk you through each phase and show you exactly what it looked like when I used it with Bill. Phase 1 is clarity, and that's where you stop dancing around the issue and take action. Clarity means you put the issue on the table early, directly, and without distortion. It matters because vagueness creates fear and stories. When a leader hints, delays, or softens the message too much, people don't feel safe. They feel uncertain. And uncertainty breeds rumors, resentment, and anxiety. Clarity is the moment you move the conversation from tension to truth. Here's how it works, and here's what I did with Bill. So first, don't delay. I didn't wait 2 weeks. I scheduled time quickly, not because I was angry, but because I wanted to contain the damage. Remember, people told me about this and they were not happy and they wanted someone to do something about it. As the boss, I needed to take action. So I sent Bill a short message. I said, "Bill, can we meet for 20 minutes? I received some feedback from the committee meeting today that we need to talk through." It was simple, direct, no drama. Then you present the facts, not judgments. When we sat down, I started here. I said, "I wasn't in the meeting, but multiple people reported to me that you made a comment comparing something to the Nazis in Germany." Now, notice what I didn't say. I didn't say, "You're offensive," or "Your comment was offensive." I didn't say, "What's wrong with you?" I didn't label him. I just put the facts on the table. I said, "You said this. Several people told me." So then you verify the facts. I then asked him, "Did you say that? Or something close to that?" Now, this is important because your job is not to prosecute. Your job is to understand. Bill acknowledged that he said it. Yeah, he did. So the next thing is to discuss the impact and understand the interpretation of what it's about. So I explained why this matters. I said several people reported that the comments didn't land well and it offended a lot of people. Even if you intended it to be humorous, comments like that can make a meeting feel unsafe. People stop contributing. They stop speaking up. And that affects trust and collaboration. And then I made the expectation clear. I said, those kinds of comments can't happen again in the meetings you lead. So notice, I made it very clear. This is the standard. We're not doing that again. Okay, once you put the issue on the table, here's where most leaders accidentally blow it. They corner the person, they trap them, and then they lecture them. This creates defensiveness. That's why the next phase exists. Phase two, which is control. All right, so wait, let's recap. In phase one, clarity, we talk about addressing the issue early, sticking to the facts, confirming what happened, explaining the impact, and then setting the expectation. I call that holding the torch because that's my job for the organization is to hold the torch, set the expectation, make sure everyone follows the rules. Clarity matters because it moves everyone into a shared reality. We all agree on what happened. And without that shared reality, you're just arguing about impressions. So clarity is really important. Now we move to phase two, control. Control means giving the other person a sense of agency in this hard moment. People don't resist feedback as much as they resist feeling trapped. Control lowers defensiveness. And that matters because defensive people don't learn. They just protect themselves. So your job is to stay firm on the standard while giving them some room to engage. Here's how it works and what I did with Bill. I asked him for permission. Right after I laid out the facts, I said something like, Bill, this is a difficult topic. Are you open to talking about it? And that tiny moment changes the tone. He's not being ambushed. He's choosing to participate. Of course, he said, yes, we're in a meeting, but still, I'm asking if he's open to talk about it. And then I use interrogative questions. I didn't lecture. I asked him, what was your intent when you said those things? What point were you trying to make? How do you think those comments landed in the room? If you were sitting in that meeting, what would you have felt if you heard that? And here's why those questions are important, because they force reflection without humiliation. In Bill's case, he said something like, I was just trying to make a point with a little levity. It was just a reference. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. Those are very human responses. They also represent a leadership blind spot. So I followed up. I asked, do you see how a comment can be intended as a throwaway line, but experienced as offensive or unsafe? Now Bill is thinking. He's not defending. He's thinking about the comment in general and how it might land. All right, now we're about to hit the part that separates good leaders from damaging ones. You can be right on the facts and still handle the person in a way that creates a long-term scar. That's what phase three is about, respect. Now in phase two, in control, we ask permission, we use interrogative questions, we give the person some room to reflect, and the goal is to reduce defensiveness so they can actually hear you. Control matters because if the person feels trapped, their brain goes into fight or flight, and then nothing productive happens. In phase three, respect, it means you keep your dignity intact while you hold your line and uphold the standard of the organization. This matters because the way people feel in the moment determines whether they improve or quietly resent you. Respect does not mean being soft. Respect means being firm without being cruel. And when leaders miss this, they don't just lose the person, they lose trust in the entire culture. So here's how it works, and here's what I did with Bill. You have to detach emotionally and have an umpire's mindset. You're just calling balls and strikes. I stayed calm, I stayed neutral, like the referee that I am. And I said something like, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to uphold standards and protect our organization's culture. This is key. It tells Bill, I'm not attacking him. I'm addressing his behavior. And then I invited his perspective. I asked, how do you see the situation now? What do you think people took away from that moment? And that kept it collaborative. It's not a courtroom. He's thinking about how his statement landed and now reflecting on it. And then we acknowledge emotion. I could tell Bill was uncomfortable. I mean, he talked about Nazis in Germany. It's not the kind of thing you want to get called on the carpet for. He was a little embarrassed. Maybe he was a little defensive too. So I said, I can see this is uncomfortable feedback. Basically, I called it out. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but I said it there. And then I said the boundary line. I'm not saying you intended any harm, but intent isn't the only issue. Impact matters. And that sentence is pure leadership. It's fair, it's firm, and it's not personal. So you want to lead with respect in your voice and your tone. And this is where your tone matters more than your words. If you sound disgusted, sarcastic, or even superior, you'll lose them. So I kept it steady. I said, you're a leader here. People watch how you run meetings. That's why this matters. Recognize also that I did this directly. I didn't delegate it. I didn't send HR to do it. I didn't hint around it. I didn't hope it stops. I addressed it because if I didn't address it, I'm silently signaling this is survivable behavior here. You can say this weird stuff and nobody will comment on it. It's also important to maintain your relationship. I close this part with, I'm bringing this to you directly because I believe you can adjust it, and I want you to succeed. That's how you keep a hard conversation from turning into a permanent fracture. I remembered when I got that feedback as a referee. My supervisor said, I want you to be a better referee. That was inspiring to me. He wanted me to be better. And that's what I was trying to convey to Bill. I also want you to succeed. So now we have to turn the page, because if you end the conversation right there, most people will walk away feeling ashamed or angry. And that's where phase 4 comes in, where you convert the moment into progress. What we just did in phase 3, respect, this is where you stay calm and impartial. You invite their perspective. You acknowledge emotion without surrendering standards. You speak with clarity. You handle it personally, and all that put together preserves your relationship. Respect matters because trust is the currency that makes accountability possible. Phase 4 is your future orientation, and that means you turn the conversation into a path forward, because shame doesn't create improvement, it creates hiding. If people don't see a way forward, they don't change. They protect themselves. Future orientation is the leader saying, okay, now let's fix it. Here's how it works and what I did with Bill. I articulated our purpose. I said, Bill, my job is to protect the culture and keep meetings professional. Your job is to lead meetings where people feel safe and contribute. That's not personal. It's role clarity. Then we pivot to next steps. I got very specific. I said, going forward, in the meetings that you lead, don't take any political shots. Don't make any extreme historical comparisons, and don't provide any references to scandals or whatever's going on in the news. Don't even try it, even as a joke. And I gave Bill some alternatives. I said, if you want to make a strong point, use a neutral business analogy or some data, not a shock value reference. It's important to recognize this as a negotiation. Bill wanted humor, and that's why he made the comment. He thought it helped the room. I didn't say, don't be funny or never be funny. I said, humor is fine, but you've got to keep it professional and safe. Your job as the meeting leader is to create the conditions where others can speak. Tell a dad joke if you want to be funny. And that's the negotiation. Keep his style, but refine his judgment. Now, we end the conversation with ownership, choice, and support. Then I asked the closing questions. I said, what will you do differently next time you feel the urge to make a comment like that? How will you catch yourself in the moment? What support do you need from me? Because it's important for Bill to think about what will happen next time when he has the thought, but he shouldn't say it. And then I added one more important repair move. I said, Bill, at the start of your next committee meeting, I want you to do a brief reset. Don't do a long apology. Don't do a dramatic speech. Just a quick reset. Just say, hey, everybody, I have a quick note. In our last meeting, I made a comment that wasn't appropriate for the work setting. That's on me. I'm keeping our meetings professional going forward. Saying that does a lot for culture repair with colleagues. And finally, with Bill, I set a checkpoint. I said, let's meet for 10 minutes after the next meeting. I want to make sure this feels like it's back on track for you. In phase 4, future orientation, that's where we reframe the purpose, define clear boundaries, offer alternative behaviors, we create ownership, we definitely provide support, and, very important, we set a follow up checkpoint. The reason why future orientation matters is because it turns a hard moment into forward momentum. And that's the whole point. All right, that's the 4-part framework. Clarity keeps it grounded, control keeps defensiveness down, respect keeps trust intact, and future orientation turns the moment into progress. And if you remember one thing, don't wait for perfect timing. Have the conversation early and have it with a structure that protects the person and the standard. I have a freebie for you. If you'd like, I'll send you my difficult conversation prep checklist. You can use it before your next tough talk. Just send me an email at leadershipcareeraccelerator@gmail.com and put checklist in the subject line. I'll send it right off to you. Wrapping up, what's the one thing you can implement today? I think the most important action you can take is to think through the conversation and jot down some notes. That will keep you on track. If your conversation partner throws you off track, your notes will get you back on track. Thank you for listening, and congratulations. You are a member of the End of the Show Club. My mission is to help you grow as a leader, elevate your career, and improve your life. I know you enjoy learning leadership tools, so please hit subscribe. In return, my promise is to keep bringing you ideas that make you a better leader. If you have any questions or want to get in touch, send me a note. The address is leadershipcareeraccelerator@gmail.com. And check out and engage with me on Substack at Leadership Career Accelerator.